when my parents fired me. They did it over lunch in public. Like I was just another employee being laid off. I still remember my mom as trembling hands as she folded her napkin and my dad avoiding my eyes while pretending to check his phone. I thought they called me to talk about expanding the company. I'd been working 70-hour weeks helping them build it. But instead, they had to make cuts. Cuts that ass what they called firing their only child. My dad cleared his throat and said, "It's not personal, son. It's just business." The words hit me like a punch. This business had been my life. 1D built their website, modernized their logistics, and landed 2 of the biggest clients they ever had. But none of that mattered. The company was struggling. They said, though, their brand new SUV and recent Hawaii told a different story. They offered me a severance, 2 weeks' pay. My mom teared up, saying she hoped we could keep family out of it. I left the restaurant, no. I sat in my car for an hour, staring at the steering wheel, replaying every late night I'd spent in that office, trying to make them proud. 2 weeks later, they replaced me with my dad Escalf buddy's son. Someone with no experience, but a better attitude. According to my father, I moved into a tiny apartment, sold my car, and took freelance work just to pay rent. My parents barely called. Then one night, I got a LinkedIn notification. A recruiter from a competitor company wanted to talk. I almost ignored it. But something in me snapped. That fire you feel when the people you trusted most betray you. So I clicked accept. And that's where it all began. The recruiter's message was short but intriguing. We've been following your work. We'd love to discuss a leadership opportunity. I laughed when I first read it. Leadership I'd just been fired by my own parents. My confidence was in shambles. But something told me to go to that interview anyway. Maybe curiosity, maybe spite. The company was Brightline Logistics, one of my parents' biggest competitors. I walked into their glass office building, expecting another disappointment. Instead, I met Amanda Lewis, their VP of Operations, sharp suit, calm voice, and the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter. She didn't waste time. Your name came up 3 times in the last quarter. She said, "You were the backbone of your family's business. Weren't you?" I hesitated. "I contributed." She smiled slightly. That's what people who do everything say. By the end of the meeting, she offered me a managerial role, double my old salary, full creative freedom. I almost said no out of guilt toward my parents, the ones who betrayed me. But Amanda looked me in the eye and said, "You can build something better. Don't let loyalty to people who hurt you hold you back." That night I lay awake thinking about it. About how my parents had discarded me like I was nothing. How they replaced me without blinking. How my mom still commented on my social media posts like everything was fine. I signed the contract the next morning. Working at Brightline felt like oxygen after years underwater. My ideas weren't just tolerated, they were wanted. I launched new digital campaigns, streamlined their delivery systems, and within 6 months, our market share grew by 18%. Then came the moment that changed everything. During a quarterly meeting, Amanda mentioned casually, "We're considering an acquisition, smaller regional companies. You used to work at one, didn't you? Henderson Freight." I froze. That was my parents' company. Amanda continued, unaware of the storm inside me. "They're struggling. Financial reports are ugly. We might make an offer before someone else does." In that moment, my chest tightened. A rush of emotions, anger, Nostalgia, vindication collided all at once. I realized the universe had handed me something far more powerful than revenge. It handed me opportunity. After that meeting, I couldn't focus on anything else. Amanda's words kept echoing in my head. They're struggling. We might make an offer. I knew what struggling meant in corporate language. Bleeding money, losing clients desperate for help. That night, I dug through everything I could find online about Henderson Freight, my parents' company. Public filings, reviews, LinkedIn updates, even local business news. It was worse than I imagined. Client complaints, late shipments, a rumor about one of their main contracts being terminated, and the cherry on top, their star hire. The guy who replaced me had quit after 6 months. Apparently, he wasn't a good cultural fit. Translation, he had no clue what he was doing. Part of me felt a flicker of pity. My parents had poured their lives into that business. But another part, the part that remembered, sitting in my car, after being fired, whispered, they made this bed. Let them lie in it. Still, I didn't want to make emotional decisions. So I did what I do best. I analyzed. I spent weeks quietly collecting data. Old contacts who'd worked with them. Supplier invoices, delivery stats. Every piece of information that could reveal how deep their problems went. Amanda thought I was just researching competitors. I never told her the personal connection. The numbers told a brutal story. Their profits had dropped 40% in a year. Clients were jumping ship. They'd taken out loans using personal property as collateral. They were drowning. And I had the power to either throw them a lifeline or stand back and watch them sink. The worst part, my parents still posted smiling photos online, family dinners, vacations, community events. They pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile, my dad started calling me again. Just casual stuff at first. Housework, you doing okay? He didn't know I knew the truth. And I didn't let on. Because deep down a dangerous idea was forming. If Brightline acquired Henderson Freight, I'd likely be the one overseeing integration, which meant I wouldn't just work near my parents. Again, I'd be in charge of them. A few weeks later, Amanda walked into my office with that same calm smile. Remember that small company we discussed? She said, setting a folder on my desk. We're moving forward. Henderson Freight. My pulse spiked. I forced myself to sound casual. You're serious? Absolutely. We'll acquire their assets, absorb their roots, and rebrand. It's a strategic pickup. She leaned in slightly. I want you to lead the transition. You know the region, the clients. The structure. I could barely breathe. The company that fired me, the people who said I was too expensive, were about to become mine. That night, I stared at the folder. Inside were the acquisition details, valuation estimates, and a financial report so grim it made me laugh bitterly. They were weeks away from defaulting on a major loan. If Brightline didn't buy them, the bank would. My parents' empire was hanging by a thread. When the news reached them, my dad called immediately. His voice was oddly small. Son, we just heard Brightline's interested in us. You wouldn't happen to? I cut him off. Yeah, I'm part of the team handling it. Silence. Then a shaky, oh, for the first time in years. He didn't know what to say to me. He tried to sound upbeat. Well, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it saved the company. I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to scream, to remind him how he tossed me aside like a defective tool. But I just said, we'll see what the numbers say. A few days later, Amanda and I met with their board. My parents sat at the far end of the table. My mom wouldn't meet my eyes. My dad tried to act professional, but his hands shook when he poured water into his glass. Amanda LED'd the meeting, but I could feel their attention on me the entire time, like they finally realized who I'd become. When the documents were signed, my dad forced a smile and extended his hand. "Guess we'll be working together again," he said. I shook his hand cold. Firm and silent. The deal was done. Brightline officially owned Henderson Freight, and I was now Director of Integration, responsible for overseeing operations, staff retention, and all former management decisions. I now had full authority over my parents' company. The power should have felt good. But as I watched them pack up their office later that week, my mom carrying photo frames, my dad folding his favorite coffee mug into a box, something inside me twisted. They looked small. But then I remembered their words. "It's not personal, it's just business." So I turned away and said quietly, "Neither is this 2 weeks after the acquisition." I stepped back into the building that used to be theirs. The logo on the front door was gone. The Henderson Freight sign had been replaced with Brightline. Sleek blue emblem, it felt poetic and a little cruel. Inside, my parents were already at their new desks. No private office anymore. No corner window view. Just 2 small cubicles near the operations team. They looked uncomfortable, out of place among younger employees, wearing Brightline polos and headsets. When I walked in, conversation stopped. Everyone knew who I was, the son who now ran the show. My dad forced a smile. "Morning, boss." That word hit me harder than I expected. Boss. For years I'd been the kid fetching coffee, staying late making their ideas work. And now the dynamic had flipped completely. Amanda told me to keep them professionally engaged until the transition stabilized. But I could see it in their eyes, the shame, the loss of control. Still, I wasn't ready to forgive. The first meeting I led with them was awkward. My dad interrupted twice to clarify old procedures. My mom tried to make small talk about family dinners, birthdays, anything that wasn't tea business. I stayed cold. "Let us focus on the agenda," I said each time over the next month. I noticed how they struggled to adapt. They weren't used to digital systems, online reporting, or Brightline's pace. My mom once, I printed a spreadsheet and tried to fill it out by hand. My dad kept calling younger employees kids and ignoring their input. The team grew frustrated. Amanda asked privately if we should consider letting them go. I hesitated. It would be poetic to fire them the way they fired me. But when I saw my mom sitting in the break room one afternoon, quietly crying over her coffee, something cracked inside me. I remembered being in that same room years ago, crying after they told me I was too expensive. Now she was in my place. I told myself this was justice, not cruelty, that they were finally learning what it felt like to be powerless. But it didn't feel satisfying. It felt heavy. Then came the email that changed everything. One of our key clients, $1 million account, had reached out to me directly. Apparently, my dad had contacted them behind my back, trying to renegotiate in Brightline's name without authorization. That crossed the line. When I called him into my office, he didn't even deny it. "I just wanted to help," he said. "I know these people better than you." "Better than me," I snapped. "You nearly lost that client 2 years ago. I'm the one who saved that account, remember?" He stared down at the floor. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. He trying to sabotage me. He just couldn't stand not being in control. I dismissed him with a quiet, "You're done here." His shoulders slumped. "Are you firing me?" I hesitated. Ben said it, yes. "It's not personal, it's just business." After I fired my dad, the entire office, this felt different. Quieter. Colder. People avoided me in the hallways, not out of fear, but out of unease. They'd seen what happened. One week I was the golden success story. The next I fired my own father. Amanda backed me completely. "You did what needed to be done," she said. He crossed the line. And she was right, wasn't he? Still something inside me twisted. Every time I passed his now empty desk, the coffee mug he left behind, one dad sat on the counter like a ghost. My mom didn't talk to me for 3 days. Then on Friday afternoon she came to my office. No knock, no smile. Just walked in and closed the door. "You fired your father," she said quietly. I didn't. He looked up from my laptop. He went behind my back. Her voice trembled. "He was trying to help you." Humiliated him, I looked at her then, her eyes red, face pale, her hands shaking. "Do you remember?" I said slowly. "When you both fired me, you said it was just business. You didn't care how I felt." I sat in my car for an hour, trying not to cry. I lost everything. "Did either of you feel bad?" Then her lips pressed together. "We made a mistake," she whispered. "We thought we were doing what was best for the company. But this," she gestured around the office, "this isn't justice. This is cruelty." I stood up. This is the consequence of treating people like tools. You and Dad taught me that." Tears welled up in her eyes. "He has been sick, you know." That made me freeze. "What?" "Stress. High blood pressure. The doctor said it's gotten worse since the takeover." My stomach dropped, but I forced my face to stay blank. "That is not my fault." She looked at me for a long moment, the way only a mother can, as if she could see every version of me layered together. The little boy who used to bring her coffee, the man she betrayed, the stranger standing in front of her now. Then she said something that gutted me. "I don't even recognize you anymore." She left without another word. That night, I stayed late in the office. The building was empty, except for the hum of the air conditioning. I opened the window blinds and looked out at the city, bright lights, perfect skyline. Everything I'd ever wanted. So why did it feel so hollow? My phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. "Congrats on the leadership report." QS impressed. "Brightline as future looks strong thanks to you." I typed a reply, then stopped. Because for the first time, I wasn't sure if what I'd built was success, or just a prettier version of the pain my parents once gave me. It was a Monday morning. When I got the call, I was in a board meeting, presenting quarterly projections, when my phone buzzed again and again. Unknown number. I ignored it twice, until the third call with a voicemail notification. Something in my gut told me to listen. "This is County General Hospital. We have a patient named Richard Henderson listed as your emergency contact. Please call us back immediately." For a moment I couldn't breathe. The room spun, voices around me blurred. I excused myself mid-sentence and stepped into the hallway. My hands shook as I dialed back. My dad had collapsed at home. "Stroke mild," they said. but serious enough to keep him in the hospital for monitoring. I drove there without remembering half the trip. When I walked into his room, I froze. He looked smaller, pale, hooked to monitors, his right hand trembling slightly with every movement. My mom sat beside him holding his hand. She looked up at me, eyes swollen from crying. "He is stable," she whispered. They said it was stress. I stood there in silence. The beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound between us. He turned his head toward me slowly. His voice was hoarse, thin. "Didn't he expect you'd come?" he said with a weak smile. "I had to," I muttered. "You're still my father." He gave a short, broken laugh. "Even after what I didn't," he answered. He looked away toward the window. "I thought firing you would save the company." I told myself it was logical, but truth is, I couldn't handle being challenged by my own son. "You were better than me. Smarter," and it scared me. The words cut deep. For years I'd imagined him cold, unrepentant, but hearing this, seeing him fragile, it shattered something inside me. I swallowed hard. "You didn't have to destroy me to feel strong." He nodded slightly. I know that now. My mom reached for my hand. For the first time in years, I didn't pull away. We sat in silence for a while. Three people bound by pride, pain, and something deeper we'd all tried to bury. Before I left, my dad said quietly, "Whatever happens next with the company, do what you think is right, not what hurts." Those words haunted me for days. Back at work, Amanda congratulated me on how the merger numbers looked. "If you keep this up," she said, "you'll be up for a VP position next quarter." But I barely heard her. My mind was miles away, stuck on that hospital room, that fragile voice, that confession. For the first time, I didn't feel like a victor. I felt like a villain. For the first time in years, I couldn't focus on work. Every email, every meeting, every spreadsheet felt meaningless. I rebuilt my entire identity around success, proving to everyone, especially my parents, that I didn't need them. And yet, after that hospital visit, all I could think about was them. Amanda noticed the shift. "You've been quiet lately," she said one morning. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." She studied me, you know. Sometimes when people finally get what they want, they realize it's not what they needed. I laughed it off, but her words stuck like a thorn. That weekend I visited my parents' house, the one I hadn't stepped into since the day they fired me. The place looked smaller, older. The yard was overgrown, the mailbox dented. For years, this house had been a symbol of everything I wasn't, either success, their control, their pride. Now it looked like a tired shell. My mom opened the door. Her face softened when she saw me, but she didn't smile. "You came." "Yeah," I said. "Just wanted to check in." Inside, boxes filled the hallway. Old office documents, awards, client binders with the Henderson Freight logo. They were packing it all up. "We're selling the house," she said quietly. "Your father can't handle the stress anymore. We need something smaller." I looked around the framed photos. The coffee table ID helped my dad build when I was 16, the family portrait hanging crooked on the wall. It felt like walking through the ruins of a kingdom that once ruled my world. My dad came out of the living room, moving slowly but determined. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. His voice was frail, but his eyes were clear. "Glad you stopped by." We talked awkwardly at first. Then honestly. About the business, about the past. About the things we never said when pride stood between us. "I know I can't fix what I did," he said finally. "But if you're ever in a position to do better than I did, promise me you will." I nodded. "I'll try." That night after I left, I sat in my car outside their house for a long time. The same spot I once sat in after being fired. Only this time I wasn't too angry. I was empty because I realized something brutal. I spent years trying to destroy them, and in the process, I destroyed myself too. The next day I walked into Amanda's office. "I want to make some changes," I said, "with Henderson Freight's division." She raised an eyebrow. "What kind of changes?" "Something fairer. Maybe earn some dignity back." Amanda leaned back, studying me carefully. "Are you sure that's not exactly a profit-maximizing move?" For once I said quietly, "I don't care." Amanda stared at me like she was trying to read between my words. "You want to restructure the Henderson division. That's a major cost." "I know," I said. "But it's necessary." She crossed her arms. "You're not doing this because of your parents, are you?" I hesitated just long enough for her to know the truth. "Listen," she said softly. "I've seen people in this business lose everything because they confused emotion with strategy. You built something powerful. Don't throw it away because you feel guilty." "I'm not doing this out of guilt." I said I'm doing it because the way we operate, the way I've operated, isn't sustainable. We can make money and have integrity. Amanda sighed, then nodded slowly. "If this blows up, you take the heat." "Deal." That week, I implemented a new plan. We rebranded part of Henderson Freight under its old name, but as a subsidiary, giving my parents partial management control again. Not ownership, but dignity. When I told them, they didn't believe me at first. My mom covered her mouth, tears welling up. "You're serious?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "You'll both have advisory roles. Work flexible hours. No stress." My dad looked at me, disbelief turning to something softer, pride maybe. "Why would you do that after everything?" "Because I finally get it," I said. "You thought firing me would save what you built. I thought destroying you would make me whole. We were both wrong." He smiled weakly. "Maybe we're finally learning." The following months were strange. We weren't a perfect family. Maybe we never would be, but there was peace. My mom brought cookies to meetings again. My dad stopped barking orders and started mentoring younger employees. And I started sleeping again. Amanda watched it all from a distance. One day she stopped by my office. "You actually pulled it off," she said, almost amused. "The board is happy. The numbers are steady. I guess compassion didn't kill profits after all." I laughed. "Turns out it's good business." Then she added, "By the way, the VP position is yours if you want it." For a second I couldn't answer. Because the promotion, the dream I'd chased for years, didn't mean as much anymore. I took it, of course. But this time, it wasn't about revenge, validation, or proving anything. It was about building something worth being proud of. A few weeks later, we had a family dinner. The first real one in years. My mom insisted on cooking everything. My dad made his old jokes again. Still slower, still fragile, but smiling. At one point, he raised his glass to second chances. He said, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like an outsider in my own family. The office was quiet that evening. My desk was clean, the city lights casting long shadows across the floor. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about the journey that brought me here. 2 years ago, I was furious, betrayed and lost. My parents had fired me to save money, and I had let anger drive every decision I made. I had climbed the ladder at Brightline, taken control of Henderson Freight, and felt the rush of power. But power alone didn't heal anything. It didn't erase the loneliness, the nights spent replaying every insult, every dismissal, every casual word that cut deeper than they could imagine. It was only when I chose to step back, to let my parents keep some dignity, to rebuild a relationship cautiously, to forgive in action, if not entirely in heart, that I finally felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. The Henderson division now thrived under a shared system of oversight. My parents had meaningful roles, no longer pawns of pride. Brightline continued growing, but not at the cost of our humanity and me. I realized that revenge might feel satisfying for a moment, but it leaves a hollow space if you never learn from it. I called my mom that night. Her voice was warm, familiar. "Dinner tomorrow?" she asked. I smiled, leaning back in my chair. "Yeah, let us do it." As I hung up, I looked around the office one last time. The numbers on the spreadsheets, the charts on the monitors, even the emails in my inbox, they were all part of the machine I had built. But the real achievement wasn't tea in profits or titles. It was in understanding what mattered. Success, I realized. I send tea about defeating the people who wronged you. It's about becoming someone you respect. In the mirror, I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and walked out into the night. For the first time, I felt like I had truly won. Not over my parents, not over my past, but over the part of myself that needed revenge to feel alive. And that, I thought, is worth more than any business deal could ever be.